and how that's going. Priya is going to do a poll regarding in-person meetings, as a lot of our COVID restrictions are going away. Is some interest engaging there, or a hybrid meeting? We'll talk a little more about that. We also have an update on the Housing and Homeless Coalition Awards and Executive Committee nominations and Project Connect. So there is a lot to talk about. And then we'll do agency updates at the end. I'm willing. I today might go a touch long, so but hopefully we'll keep it moving here. Let's see, Priya, did I miss anything to start?
We just have to have the August minutes moved for approval.
Thank you very much. Yes, does anyone make a motion to approve the August minutes?
This is Janae. I will motion to approve the August minutes.
This is Roland. I'll second that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you, Priya, for reminding me, because I would have zoomed right past that. All right. I believe we're ready for our first presentation from Stephen Dearborn. Stephen, are you there and ready?
Yes, sir. I am here. Do I have ability to share screen? Because I do have a few slides I'd like to pull up.
You should be able to. Let me know if it doesn't work.
Okay, wonderful. Share here. Okay, did it work? Good to go.
Good, Stephen. Thank you. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone, my name is Stephen Dearborn. I work with Kitsap Support Advocacy and Counseling. I am the program supervisor there, as well as a marriage family therapist on staff. If everyone in here, I don't know who's all familiar with KSAC. KSAC has been around since 1975. We are a team who provides general, medical, legal advocacy for individuals in Kitsap County. We also have a team of licensed therapists on staff. We work very closely with Kitsap Saves organization, and they run our children advocacy center. So we have children therapists who work on staff with us as well. We do provide services for victims of sexual assault and also violent crimes. So you can see there with our mission statement. To talk a little bit about where we're at as an agency right now. So we have experienced quite a bit of growth in the last several years. Our main offices are located out of Port Orchard. We're right down the hill from the courthouse. COVID has, like with so many other organizations, has left us doing a lot of telehealth, a lot of telework. So we've evolved in that way, which has really been beneficial for our clients. We're actually working on one of our latest models is called TFCBT. So it's trauma-focused CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, if you're not familiar with that. We are able to do that through telehealth with kids. We have an iPad loaner program, so we're actually able to get iPads out into the homes of the kids, and we can actually work with them virtually, which has helped create a really robust array of services, because prior to that, it was a barrier for many of our clients. So I'm going to go to the next slide here, if it'll let me. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about our advocacy services. So when someone experiences a sexual assault, they'll either be referred to us from an outside agency, be it law enforcement, a school, the hospital. One of our advocates will get in touch with them. Typically, the first step is going to be the medical process. If there's a sexual assault nurse examination that needs to be done, that advocate can go sit with that individual client at the hospital while those services are provided. And a client may be in crisis. They may need just some emotional support. There's an array of different things that a client may need when they contact KSAC. Sometimes KSAC is contacted for, a sexual assault or a crime that happened in the past, may have been 5-10 years ago. Luckily with KSAC, there is no statute of limitations on that, right? So even if it happened, sexual assault, hey, I was sexually assaulted 20 years ago, KSAC is still there to work with that client and help them process through that. We do provide assistance with crime victims compensation. We can help victims to obtain protection orders, any kind of court services. We also can help them to create victim impact statements and kind of get them through that whole legal process. And as probably a lot of you know, it is a very long process when it comes to processing sexual assault. And unfortunately, it is unfortunate because that is, takes its toll on the victim and sort of the, services that they can, are sort of their emotional healing, and that is something that is really, really challenging for clients, is to hear, hey, this is going to take another 6 months, this is going to take a year. So to have that advocate there to support them through that is really important. Our advocates are currently working to access underserved populations, homeless, minority populations, and that's really kind of our big push right now, because we know where our demographic is, we know who we need to reach out to. So we're really trying to find ways to better reach those communities who are not, they don't have access, they don't have the resources to reach out to us. Okay. Any questions on advocacy services? No? Okay. Go ahead and move on to the next.
Quick question.
Sure.
Sorry, and maybe you said this tonight. So do you guys work closely with the law police department and the sheriffs?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We do work closely with law enforcement, yes. So we have forensic interviews that take place up at our Children's Advocacy Center. And oftentimes that obviously includes law enforcement being there, or just investigative agents. And, we try and do education on trauma-informed care and everything like that with law enforcement as well, for when they do get those reports of sexual assault or crime. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I will give you all an opportunity here at the end to answer a few more questions if anything should come up as well. Okay. So therapy services. So how therapy works at KSAC is a client is usually going to start, their first stop is going to be working with advocates. From there, an advocate will create a referral for therapy services if that client's a good fit and everything else. Something that I do want to lead with, and I think it is a common misconception out in the community, is KSAC therapists are not there to assess whether a child, or anyone for that matter, has been sexually assaulted. So what I mean by that is sometimes we will have a call from a community partner or a parent or somebody, and they may say, hey, I have a suspicion that my child has been sexually assaulted. And so we would never just take them in and start doing trauma work with that client based off of suspicion. That suspicion, if there is the suspicion that's occurred, that person would probably be prompted to contact law enforcement. That way investigations can occur and they can determine yes or no that a sexual assault has happened, and then that client would come in to receive services for that sexual assault. We are all mandated reporters at KSAC, so if we catch wind of that, we obviously have to report it if it hadn't been reported previously. So therapy services, the advocate is going to refer the client over. Sometimes we have clients that get referred directly into the therapy program that may not necessarily be working with an advocate. That seems to be less the case, but it is the case at times. What we do as therapists, we have a team of 4 of us. So there's not a lot of us, but we, take in as many clients as we can. I think our wait list is currently maybe 2 or 3 weeks out. And we all practice under various different modalities. These are not inclusive, so please don't take this as like, oh, if you go to KSAC, you're going to get CBT or you're going to get CPT. We all have different modalities and different kind of ways that we work with the client, which kind of comes together in that individualized treatment planning. MDT meetings with KSAC advocates. So that is a multidisciplinary team meeting where we can actually work hand in hand with the advocates to ensure that that client is getting the best possible care that they need at that time. Obviously, therapists do have still quite a bit of confidentiality when it comes to discussing cases or clients or anything else with the advocates. So a lot of information is still kept confidential, but we're really there to make sure that, you know, the advocates are meeting the needs of the clients, whether that be housing, you know, medical, or just any other resources that they might need out in the community. The next slide here. The last thing I want to talk about, so that, I mean, that is a general overview of our organization and what we do. And I should have mentioned this at the beginning, we are a nonprofit, so we are not a fee-based service. Our clients do not have to go through insurance and they do not pay any kind of fees to be part of our service. This is something that I want to impress upon community members and other agencies, a trauma-informed response to sexual assault. So there is the likelihood that, you know, anybody in the community could have somebody come to them, be it a parent, be it a teacher, community organizer, and get a report of sexual assault. And I like to talk about trauma-informed response because it's oftentimes something that our victims do not receive when they report a sexual assault. There's a lot of misinformation and miscommunication around it. So here are some tools here that you can use in the event that you do receive a report of sexual assault. First off, you want to make sure that you're listening and using that validating verbal and nonverbal communication. You know, we want to use the language that validates that victim, use their language and acknowledge what they are telling you. At that time, nobody's conducting an interview. So it's one of those situations where if someone's recently experienced a trauma, they don't want to, you know, if you're asking a lot of probing questions and everything else, it could kind of shut them down from talking about that sexual assault in the future. So we want to make sure that we're being very sensitive around it and we're really just that listening, empathetic ear at that time. We don't want to make any comments or assumptions about the experience. No victim blaming, obviously. And then offer to connect them to KSAC, offer a resource and be able to say, hey, I have these providers in the community that can help you and get you the help that you need. Okay. See here, final slide. Okay, how to get in contact with KSAC. So this is our main line number here. It can, if they call from 9 to 4, they're going to get somebody. Outside of that, calls are returned within 24 hours. And anything that's immediate assistance, 988, which is the new suicide and crisis lifeline, or 911 if it is an emergency. And with that, I will turn it over to any questions that you all have.
I have a question for you. This is Shar from Northwest Justice Project. And I'm wondering if you help domestic violence survivors as well, or only if they are victims of sexual assault. They have the overlay of the sexual assault.
Absolutely. So currently we do not work with domestic violence survivors. However, we would refer them out to the YWCA, which is the agency in the community that does work with them. Yep.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Any other questions about KSAC or the services that we provide?
Are you taking referrals right now, and what's your capacity? How many folks can you work with at a time?
So that, I mean, we don't have a hard and fast number, and we are always taking referrals. We don't ever want there to be a barrier to that. The only thing is advocacy, not a problem. They're going to get in, they're going to get help right away. Therapy, there may be a little bit of a wait. And like I said, that wait list is about 2 weeks right now. But yes, we are, to answer your question, we are taking referrals.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you have a Spanish speaker right now? I know you had a Spanish speaker for a bit, and then I think you didn't for a bit, and I was wondering if you do at this time.
We currently do not have a Spanish speaker, no. We are always looking for volunteers or interns who would be willing to provide that service, but it is not something that we currently have.
Can you help someone fill out a victim impact statement if they are a Spanish speaker with an interpreter, or not at this time?
We would be able to find an interpreter for that, yes. I see Linda put a question in the chat. Do services include sexual misconduct, harassment? Not at this time. I am also going to provide my email here in the chat if anyone would like to reach out and ask additional questions or if anything comes up. And like I just said with the last question, we are always looking for volunteers or people who would be interested. We have 2 interns on staff right now, 2 therapist interns. So we're always looking for new ways to grow and kind of expand. So if that's something that anyone is interested in, or they have someone out there who might be interested in working as a volunteer, please feel free to email me and let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing your contact information. It's a lot of really good work. So thank you. All right, I think we're going to our next presentation, and instead of Garrett Jackson, I believe we have Kelly Lambert from the Bremerton Planning Commission to talk about some zoning amendments that would add additional housing options in Bremerton. Are you ready, Kelly?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me okay?
You can, you're good to go.
Okay, great. Yes, my name's Kelly Lambert. I'm a senior planner with the city of Bremerton. So I'm with the planning department. And Garrett is my boss, and he's actually working on, we actually have these proposed code amendments going to city council tonight for a public hearing. So this is really timely, and I just only have a couple slides. I'll go over it fairly quickly. Happy to answer questions, but I think my main message here is if you care about this, you can make comments to the city council. You can attend that meeting tonight or provide comments in writing. So I will share my screen. See. Go. Wait, that didn't work. All right, can you see my slides that say City of Bremerton proposed zoning updates?
Yeah, you're good. I also love your Spider-Man picture. That was awesome.
Oh, that's my granddaughter. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, well, anyway, I just want to talk about, so Bremerton since 2018 has been working on some, our affordable housing toolkit. And so the missing middle housing is basically things like duplexes, triplexes, cottage clusters, and accessory dwelling units, ways to get additional housing into areas that currently have services and housing, just to get some additional options for people and remove some barriers to constructing more housing. Let's see here. Tonight, we actually, our planning commission has approved these proposed code amendments. And so what happens is the planning commission recommends approval to city council. And there's a hearing tonight at 5:30 with city council. What we're talking about is expanding allowing duplexes and townhomes within low density residential, which is most of Bremerton where you see single family housing. Also, adding an option to allow cottage housing, which is clusters of smaller housing around like a common space. Currently, we don't really have a mechanism to allow that. And a required by the state density bonus for religious organizations. So I'll just talk about each one individually. So allowing duplex townhomes in the low density residential. Right now, if you have property in low density residential, you mainly are allowed just to build a single family house on that property. If it's a larger property, you can go through the subdivision process to build additional units, but what we're proposing is to allow not just single family homes, but duplexes or triplexes or even townhomes, assuming that you have a property that is large enough to meet density on that. So not onto a very small lot, but if your lot is large enough for 2 units, that we would allow these additional housing types. Right now, we already allow them within 500 feet of a commercial zone to sort of make that transition. Right now, we allow 2 accessory dwelling units per single family lot, assuming you have the space to, to meet codes otherwise. And we also allow these other housing types in certain types of what we call a cluster development subdivision. So they're already something that is permitted and actually is existing throughout the city quite a bit. And so we're just looking to make this one step easier for people to construct these. Cottage housing is a type of housing where you have several, usually smaller houses arranged around an open space. We're trying to create a code section that allows for a property owner with a larger lot to do this. They could only have up to 1,200 square foot maximum for these units. We require a certain amount of open space per unit. And then as an incentive to constructing this, reduce the parking down to 1.5 spaces per unit, although they would have the option to build more, but that's the minimum. And if people want to, maybe let me get through these and then ask whatever questions you might have. The final one is the density bonus, which the state is requiring that we provide for a religious organization that is providing low income housing. So there are some restrictions on this. It must be provided to low income households. So that's making up to, I believe, 80% of the median income. There would be a notice to title that it must be for at least 50 years. And the religious organization could not discriminate in who they would be providing this housing to. So these are all, we don't necessarily have to put this in code, but what would happen is if we don't, as these come up, we'd have to figure it out, and it's so much easier to implement if you've got it already in your code. So we're just trying to make that easier, take away barriers to creating these different housing types. So this evening, Bremerton City Council is currently still on Zoom. I'm not sure how much longer, but for tonight it is. And there's a public hearing. You can send comments to the council, and I can put this information in the chat too, if that'd be helpful. Join that public hearing, speak then, or if you don't want to speak, don't want to be on camera, you can just send comments. But we urge you to support these in terms of being able to open up options to create more housing. And that's the end of the slides, but I would be happy if anyone has any questions to take questions. And I'll also put my email in the chat as well. So if anybody does think of a question, I'm happy to answer. This is a great meeting. This is a great group. I've never joined before.
Kelly, have you gotten feedback from any developers that are interested in developing duplexes and triplexes if the code changes?
We actually get interest in that all the time, and not just from developers, but from just private owners that happen to have a property that maybe is, a 1/2 acre, and they really don't want to go through the subdivision process because it's costly, and it can take up to half a year to a year even. So this makes it easier for them to just go ahead, make full use of that property by building, maybe 3 townhomes, where in the past we would have only allowed 1 house or a house with an ADU.
So you expect probably this next year we could see impact of this, of some triplexes and duplexes going on?
I would not be surprised. Now that depends on what happens tonight, but Planning Commission recommended approval, and there was a study session last week, and council did have some questions, which we totally expected. But I think the point that Garrett was trying to make is that these are all around us anyway. I mean, you'll see duplexes and triplexes. A lot of times you don't really even notice them, but they're all over the city. He did a GIS effort to kind of show it on a map, and I'm sorry I don't have that, but they're really all around us already. And I don't really think it's going to personally don't think it's going to make that big a difference in terms of visually looking different, but it may create more homes. I see that someone had some questions for me. The person to build on the property. Yeah, the city doesn't really hook you up with someone to do the construction, but we just help facilitate, getting the permits and getting it going. And I will share a link to this meeting in the chat. So Helen, you'll be able to share that with anybody. A couple people had questions. Matt, do you want me to just?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know who had their hand up first. Janae and Jeff both have their hands up. Jeff?
Sure, just real quickly. Has there been any talk of getting rid of all the parking requirements on the planning board? It seems like all these requirements that people, the developers build parking to go along with the housing it sounds to me like it's a barrier to a lot of developers and is holding up housing.
Jeff, I agree with you. I think most of us here in the planning department feel that sometimes our parking minimums and parking requirements can be difficulties in providing housing. In different areas of the city, we do have different parking requirements, and there's a small area in downtown that it's only a half a space per unit. And then in other areas, it's up to 2 or even more spaces. It's very difficult to get rid of those because there are a lot of people that are very car oriented, and they just don't believe that we could get by with lower. But that is something that I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps coming back, because I agree with you. I think it is somewhat of a barrier, but we also don't want people to suffer impacts from not enough parking provided for development. So there's like both sides of that.
Thank you.
Sure. And then Janae, you had a question?
Yeah, I noticed that low-income housing was separate from both the duplexes and townhomes and the cottages.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything going in as far as these codes with regard to making sure that the duplexes and all of that are also available as low income? Or are those?
We're seeing these kind of as 2 separate things. So the availability of being able to create, to build a duplex or a triplex or townhomes on your property is kind of a separate thing. And we feel that it will lead to more housing. But the low income housing, that's a separate effort from the state. At this time, we don't really have any requirements to construct low income housing. That's not something the city is mandating or requiring, but if they do, like the State House bill, was it 1377 for the low-income housing, there is an incentive for those religious organizations to do that. They get increased density. So in a zone that, for example, only allows up to 12 dwelling units per acre, we would give them an incentive to go up to 18 dwelling units per acre as an incentive to do that, to help it pencil out. But I think those are 2 separate things. My grandma, who owns a property that's large enough for 2 units, we're letting her construct 2 units. We aren't requiring anything as far as low income on that.
Is that incentive open to non-religious entities creating low-income housing?
Not at this time, but that is something that we could be looking at if we felt it would that it would create more low-income housing.
Ellie, I think relating to Helen's second question about getting them people the information before the meeting. I know I saw a little brochure pamphlet that was like tucked in my mailbox like at home. Do you know if it's available online anywhere where we could share it out as a link right now?
Yes, I'll attach it. I'll find it and attach it. That was mailed out to all property owners and residents in Bremerton. But I don't know where the PDF is, but I know my coworker can get it. So before this meeting is over, I'll attach it.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks for mentioning that. Shannon, did you have a question?
Yes, this is Shannon with Peninsula Community Health Services. So in reference to what Janae was saying, so I guess I'm trying to understand the fact that the low income housing is something that's separate. So if somebody wanted to come in and say purchase and some land and everything and build, they're not necessarily required to have that option for low income housing, but there's certain incentives that say, okay, this is something that you consider, correct?
Right.
So is that my understanding?
There's this incentive that we're talking about tonight, and then what I hadn't mentioned is there's the multifamily tax exemption, which is for multifamily though. So it would need to be a multifamily project of at least 10 units. If you make those units, at least 20% of those units available to low to moderate income households, you can actually have your real estate tax on the improvements waived for a period of 12 years. You would still continue to pay tax on the underlying land, but the multifamily improvements can get a tax exemption, and that's also a state program, but Bremerton does administer it as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Michael?
Hi, good afternoon. I think I'm kind of going to tag team off of what Shannon was just asking as well. So is there anything that specifically will prevent some wealthy developer from coming in and buying this land, using this, they purchase the land and then they develop, multi-million-dollar condos or whatever, using this density bonus in these areas? Is there anything that prevents that?
No, actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. That density bonus is just for religious organizations that provide affordable housing. So it is not just for any developer.
Okay, so the thing that we're talking about tonight at the city council is specifically for this density bonus.
That's right.
And specifically for affordable housing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
No, it's okay. I touched on some other things, so I can see where it might have gotten confusing. But yeah, this is for religious organizations to provide affordable housing. It must provide it for 50 years minimum and to households of 80% of median income or lower. That's
okay,
all.
Then in that same breath, is there enough organizations that are constituted as religious organizations that are able to make a difference in the affordable housing crisis that we have right now?
And that I don't know the answer to. I don't know how many are likely to line up to use this. It's something that the state is sort of mandating, and we want to put it into our code just so that if it does come up, it will be easier to implement, and we won't have to start from scratch and figure it out then.
Thank you.
Joe, did you have a question?
I do. Sort of bouncing off Michael's question, I'm thinking about the cottage housing. This looks like a way to get more housing but could a for-profit developer come in and take advantage of these new cottage rules in order to make available very expensive tiny houses?
With the cottage housing, with getting this into our code and making it possible, we're not going to have any sort of rent restrictions or anything like that. The planning department is just mainly here to kind of, do permitting and implement, but we wouldn't have anything like that. I think the market would determine what they could get for these smaller units. If they were very luxury, maybe they could get more, but I would think that for a smaller unit, they wouldn't necessarily. I don't know. I know prices are crazy right now. So
yeah, and a follow-up. Is it a reasonable question at the meeting tonight to ask if we couldn't make requirements that these properties would somehow fall under the category of affordable?
You definitely could make that suggestion, and that might.
It would be a doable thing. There would be a mechanism to make that requirement and then enforce it.
We don't have one in place now, but anything's possible, right? So if the council has a will to do that, then that will be our orders.
Right. Thank you. Or a percentage of the properties, maybe. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jeff, your hand is still up. I didn't know if you had another question.
No, I didn't. But I just wanted to, I think Bremerton Housing Authority was added to the religious organizations with the density bonus. Is that right? Because I thought there was some bunch of talk about that.
I don't know, and I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. This has not been a thing I'm working on. I'm just giving a presentation, so I'm not sure.
This is Michael.
Hi.
Oh, Michael, you're
Hey, Sierra, how's it going?
Thanks, Michael. Kelly, there's one more question in the chat. Do you think Port Orchard would adopt these codes to improve the housing there?
They definitely could. Port Orchard, the cities around Kitsap County, we kind of copy off each other quite a bit. So I think that's possible, but that would be a question for their mayor council.
And Kelly, I just wanted to clarify with Michael and kind of picking up what Joe was saying is the only low income requirement is the density bonus for religious organizations. The triplex in Cottage Bay and duplex, that's not income limited. Any developer can develop that at market price.
Correct. That's correct. The only one here that provides that limitation is for the religious organizations to get the density bonus.
Awesome. Kelly, this was tremendously helpful and definitely a lot of interest. So thank you for answering questions. That was fantastic. It's
nice to hear people interested in what we're doing. I appreciate that. And I will get that information into the chat now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, next up, Katie is going to talk a little bit about MailChimp, and we've had some MailChimps go out, and so hopefully you've gotten them, but Katie, are you ready to give an update?
Yeah. First of all, for those who have received them, feel free to put in the chat if you like it, if you're getting good information. If you haven't received them, we've received a little bit of feedback, and we've only put 2 out so far, which all they are is an email blast instead of coming directly from like a Gmail or whatnot like we used to use before. So we're kind of formatting the updates and sending them through this email service, which also allows us to better manage the contact list. And I did want to mention that the executive team is talking about, right now Lisa sends the Zoom invites every month through her Kitsap Library account. And ultimately we could send a MailChimp email that includes that with a registration requirement. So right now, when you get the Zoom invite, you don't have to register. But if you do have to register, it will actually send you automatic notifications. So next month, when you get the meeting invite, it might be a little different. We're just trying to add some infrastructure to what we're doing, and might try that out. But we always appreciate feedback. And I was going to share the updates to the website, actually, that will support sharing our new mailing list and our sign up form. So if you go to KitsapHHC.org, again, this is our website. If you scroll down to the middle of the page, you can sign up for our mailing list. This new section was added, so we can sign up for the mailing list. So if you click there, it'll take you to the sign up form. Again, most of you are probably already on it, but if you want to share, this is now the best way to share, is just send people to this page or click on the link and send the link out. There is a contact us button that opens up an email where you could send to our new email address, admin@kitsapHHC.org. We check that regularly. If you want to send a flyer to share in our next email blast, please send it our way, and you'll get a reply from us to say, yep, we'll send it in the next email. Again, this is a daily email right now, but the more updates we get, the more regular we'll send the emails. And if it's an urgent update that you're like, hey, this is happening tomorrow, I didn't get a chance to share it, we might have an opportunity to still send something out to the group. And then there is an archive of emails on the third link. If you click that, you can actually see all the emails that were already sent. So like I said, we've only sent 2. Here's the last one we sent. Again, you get the same email in your inbox, but you can always access the past issues through this archive. So as you see, we just sent a little reminder about the meeting, a flyer about the new Care Connect Washington program, and the new homeless service providers economic relief program. So there's a lot of great updates on here. And the last thing I want to mention is community needs assessment. Less than 10 days left to get those answers in. So we really want to encourage everybody to share the survey. And you know, if you have, there's 10 people you talk to in the next week, you know, I'm hoping they'll hear about the survey. And then of course, a Care Connect flyer, and we link different flyers in these emails. So now you have access to the printable flyer. So I'm hoping everybody's enjoying the new format. And again, make sure Kitsap admin@kitsapHHC.org is saved in your safe senders list in your email. But that's my update.
Thank you, Katie. Really appreciate that. Katie's put a lot of work into helping us get organized and look really official, and so I appreciate that, Katie. And Leaf too. I know Leaf's done a lot of work behind the scenes, so big shout out to you both. Thank you for that. Yeah, and if definitely reach out because we've had, in Katie, we've had 2 go out.
We've had 2 go out. I already have content for the next one.
Okay.
I'm going to try to make it on a schedule, but right now it's just as we get more information. Okay. Again, things like community needs assessment, where we share on multiple emails and things like that. We can always add more information like that, and we can also add it to our website.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. All right, I think Priya is going to talk about a poll that we're going to do. Priya, did you want to kind of explain the context? Or?
Yeah,
Awesome.
For sure. So we'll be talking a little bit about the coalition's like awards that usually come up around the end of the year. And some of you who may have been involved with this group in previous years may remember that we made an effort to meet in person, periodically, but especially for this year-end one. So we wanted to put it in front of you to figure out if we do want to meet in person at some point. I know these virtual meetings are super helpful, especially for those who are scattered across the county and not specifically in one region. Super convenient, but it's really nice to see each other in person sometimes too. So we just want to get your feedback on which you would prefer. So I'm going to launch a poll in just a minute here. And if you haven't used a Zoom poll before, a little pop-up will show up with just the question. You select your answer, hit submit, and then I get all the data from that, and we will mull it over and figure out the plan to go forward. So we just want to ask, should we meet in person? Choose the option that's best for you and your organization. And there's just 3 options. 1, no, continue to meet virtually every month. We like it. Why change a good thing? 2, meet sometimes, maybe quarterly. So like in March, June, September, or December, and online are the remaining months. Or 3, yes, meet in person, but only for special occasions. So for instance, our year-end meeting with the awards in December, and then online in the remaining months. And if you don't like any of them, feel free to just not respond. Throw your comments in the chat. I'll get it all down and pass it on to Lisa when she's back. So I'm going to launch that poll right now. And at your leisure, in the next minute or 2, please, we'll have those results come in. Yeah. And if you have, additional thoughts, please feel free to put them in the chat or email any of the executive team to let us know. They allowed us to change the past few years. This is the cool thing is it tells me how many people have responded. 36 out of 48 participants. I'll give you 30 more seconds and then we'll take that as word. And we've got a comment from Chuck. Can in-person meetings be Zoomed? Yeah, I think the intention is to have them be hybrid if that's something that we can make room for. Because, again, not everyone can make it from parts of the county or, bad time to be one place in person. So if we can make it hybrid, we will be, so you can be Zooming in, while as many people who can be in person are in person. Let's see, we've got 40 responses. I'll give it 10 more seconds if anyone has been mulling this over. 42, fantastic. All right, so far, we've got 87% of you, that's okay. 11 of you said no, please continue to meet virtually each month. 16 say yes, let's meet quarterly in person or hybrid. 15 say yes for special occasions. That's pretty close. Okay. We can mull it over. I think at the very least we were thinking for it in person, maybe launch it with the end of year meeting, but when we come to it. So I'm going to end that poll so it gets out of your way. Awesome. Thank you so much for this little bit of time, and hopefully the 30 seconds of silence was a peaceful bit for you. And if you have any thoughts, again, that come up afterward, please feel free to reach out to any of the executive team and we'll try to make that work. I think we're good, Matt. Thank you.
Awesome. That's great. I love the data. Priya, that's my first time in doing where I've seen the poll live results. That was fantastic. Love it. Data is great. So I think I'm up next, and next thing we have to talk about is the Kitsap Housing Homelessness Coalition Awards. So this year we have the nomination instead of a PDF and having you fill it out in an email. We have an Airtable link, so it's an online poll. This will be gathered by Elizabeth, our data coordinator, then she'll present the results to the executive committee. I will put that in the chat and then we'll look at it in a second. This link was also sent out, right, Katie? Wasn't this sent out in one of the email blasts from MailChimp?
Not yet, Matt. We were still testing, I think, and then I don't know. I didn't hear about it, but I think this is great. I think we should announce it today that we will be about it.
Sorry, I got a bit ahead of myself. It will go out. Is that a fair statement, Katie? Yeah. It will go out with the MailChimp too. So I just put it in the chat right now, and we'll go take a peek at it. I'll share my screen, and we tried to make this as easy as possible for everybody. So it just looks like this. right here. So if you go to that link, it'll pop up, and we use a tool called Airtable. It's just a database tool. That is the right, it doesn't say KCR or anything like that in the web address. It's just an Airtable link. So just note that. Then you just put your name and email, and then you don't have to make nominations for each office. You can just make one or two, but just click the checkbox next to the one that you would like to do. So the categories are Exceptional Service by a Staff Member Award, Innovative Project Program Award, Community Impact Award. There's the Volunteer of the Year Award, Elected Official Friend of Homelessness Award, and then the Sally Santana Lifetime Achievement. So you do not have to have all of them. We ask that if you even have one, that's great. We love the feedback. So say you want to nominate someone for exceptional service by a staff member, you just check that box, and then that information will come up. So you have name, your agency, and then describe why the staff member is a candidate for this award. You can do multiple, you can do all of them, or as many as you want. But just make sure to, if you do, you got to check the box to get in to fill out the information. Any questions about this process or the form?
It might be helpful to describe a little bit of history on the awards. I know a lot of people are new here, and I know Kirsten might know a little bit more about the history. And like last year, it wasn't as elaborate as it had been. I think when we were in person, I think that's why we're talking about having a nice celebration at the end of December.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can.
No, please, Kirsten, go ahead.
Yeah, so these awards came out of some conversations and recognition. I don't even know how long we've been doing these awards. It's been a while, at least 7 years. That, people doing work in our sector, in our world, within the homeless crisis response system, we very rarely pause and celebrate the work that we've done and honor people who are doing exceptional work in our world. And so basically the Housing Coalition executive team decided that this would be a good way to do it, to start having an awards process. It started out somewhat informally and kind of grew into a sweet little ceremony that we usually have in December, that we bring our honorees and somebody gets up and says some nice things about them, present them with a certificate, and then we all have a little party and celebrate the amazing work that's been done over the past year. It's just an opportunity to say thank you and to acknowledge the incredible work that's being done by so many people across the community. We've honored some really great folks who sometimes not all of us know about. Sometimes we don't know what great work is going on. So it's also a way to share work that's happening in different organizations, or a new program that's emerged that's really cool, or an elected official who's done some exceptional work. And it's cool. And it's better the more people participate and submit nominations. As Matt said, you can submit just one nomination for one of those categories, or you can have a person in many of those categories. You do need to say a little bit about why you're nominating them, but it's pretty informal. You can just write a few sentences. And then the executive committee of the Housing Coalition basically looks at all the nominations and makes some selections for who they're going to honor that year. And as I said, I think this is something like the 7th year that we've done it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirsten, for the background. Yeah, that is fantastic and really cool. I know, I've been a part of, I think, 2 or 3 now, and they definitely are really special for sure. So please, and encourage anyone at your agency. They don't necessarily have to just, if there's someone else that wants to nominate or you think deserves recognition, it's pretty open, definitely not a closed thing. Shannon, question.
Yeah, the awards, when they receive, will that be done in person or will it be done Zoom or virtual, so to speak, again?
Yeah, great question, Shannon. That's part of what we did the poll for, is to gauge some interest. And I think there definitely is some interest. I think the executive committee will look at the results, but one option, if there was interest, was to potentially do December be the first kind of hybrid meeting where we would do in-person, awards, and folks could tune in virtually as well. So, and I know we can do that at KCR in our Rainier room. So that's one option. So we will definitely let you know, but that's hopefully one avenue that we could go down. It seems like there'd be a bit of interest, but we'll definitely get back to you on that with final plans.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next bit is I think Kirsten will probably need some background here as well. But we have the executive committee nominations. So I think we do these once a year as well. And these would be nominations for chair, vice chair, and secretary. And I'm putting in the chat. It's also in the agenda as well, and we can also send it out in our next email blast through MailChimp. But please email the executive committee nominations to admin@kitsap.hhc.org or Kitsap Housing and Homelessness Coalition, and for the executive committee to review. Kirsten, did you want to talk about the roles or give any background?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The chair, runs the meetings and leads the executive committee. The vice chair is sort of in line to take on the chairship after the current chair moves on, and the secretary takes notes and does some of the administrative work. The three of those folks meet together also once a month as the executive committee, and set the agendas for the next month meeting. You are welcome to self-nominate. So if you say, "Oh, I'd really like to be in this leadership role in this organization," that's totally fine. Or if you know of somebody who you think would be good in that role, you can nominate, and then the current executive committee will reach out to them and ask if they're interested. Joanne asks, who is currently on the executive committee? Matt, do you have that information? I know that.
Yeah, I mean, so Cheryl was the chair, right?
Cheryl Piercy was the chair, and Lisa was vice chair. And then is Katie secretary? Is that no?
I'm secretary.
Priya's secretary. Thank you.
It's gotten a little bit more fluid.
It's gotten a little more fluid,
yeah.
Yep. No, well, absolutely. So Cheryl's been out with sort of a long-term basis, and so Lisa has amazingly really stepped up, and that's exactly why we have a vice chair in the event that the chair is not available. So Lisa has been fulfilling that role of the chair, and then Priya has been doing secretarial duties, but also delegating some of those and sharing that responsibility with others as well. So it's fun. It's a great opportunity to kind of be part of the leadership group for this very, very important committee.
Yeah, and I should say, Kirsten, the executive committee meetings are open too, right? I mean, folks can come to those even if you're not formally, and help if you want to, and that's I know Katie and I have been coming just to help. I think Cheryl deputized us both as she was leaving to kind of help, and so that's kind of how we ended up. And because it is a big job, but it's an amazing group, and so if you definitely want to be a part of it, even if you're not a formal position, there's always ways to help, and there is plenty of work to do. So I think if you're willing, we'll be able to find a place for sure. Yeah, Kirsten, I didn't step out of turn. That's kind of the policy, right? Okay, good.
Yeah, and just to clarify for everybody, Kitsap County, we generally attend the executive committee meetings and we, participate, but we are non-voting members by choice. We think it makes more sense for us to not vote, not that the executive committee really votes on things very often, or this group votes on things very often, but we are actively involved, but kind of recuse ourselves from voting. I see that Shannon has his hand up, Matt.
Yeah, Shannon, you got another question?
Yeah. Sorry about the questions, but term limits, and then do you guys send the dates out for the meetings of the executive committee?
So we've sent for those interested, we haven't, I think, sent those out. We could start sending those out when the committee meets. Katie, it's the first Wednesday, is that right?
It's the first Wednesday at 9, and we've been meeting over Zoom.
Yeah.
How I got involved is I just emailed and said I was interested in, being part of something, to help families and whatnot. And Cheryl just sent me the link, and I've had the link ever since. So it's definitely very open. And I hear in the past, I think I joined last year. I hear in the past there's been a lot more committees, and there's opportunity for more leadership positions. As we want to do more with this coalition.
Awesome. Great. Well,
I think Shannon also asked about term limits. I think there are some term limits. We generally bring those to the group at the time when we're doing voting or when the nomination slate is being put together. It's not a secret or anything. I just don't have it in my head. I think you can serve as the chair like 2 terms or something like that, or something like. I apologize, I don't have it in my head right now, but we can definitely send that out to the group. And also the organization's bylaws are on the website too, so it's also available there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So yes, please submit yourself, self-nominate, or nominate someone else, and send those in. And I think Katie online asked what time they were, and Katie Sharp responded already. Awesome. You're so fast, Katie. That's great. 9 o'clock a.m. the first Wednesday.
If anybody is interested, use that same email for the nominations to email us admin@kitsap.khhc.org if you're interested in the Zoom link for the executive. And we can get that to you.
Fantastic. Okay, the next we have Project Connect Planning Committee, and then we also have Kitsap County and State updates. So back to you, Kirsten. Hope you're ready. Back to back.
Yes, happy to start with that. So we usually are already starting our planning for the annual point in time count right around this time of year. In most years before the pandemic, we have had a planning committee from members of the Housing Coalition that essentially put on the Project Connect Services Fair that was held in conjunction with the point in time count. So there was some, help and encouragement from the county, but mostly it was put on by the Housing Coalition. And we had a really dedicated group of volunteers who got together and met monthly or more frequently to do the planning for that event. Over time, it expanded to be 3 services fairs. So one held on Tuesday, one held on Wednesday, one held on Thursday in North Kitsap, Bremerton, and South Kitsap. And that was done to be able to serve people who needed access to those resources in all different parts of the county. As part of the event, we also survey people for the point in time count, and it's a great way to kind of attract more people in who may otherwise not be found during our outdoor outreach. So what we need to do this year is make a decision about whether we're doing an in-person Project Connect event or not. We did not do one last year for obvious reasons. We didn't do a point in time count the year before. So one of the questions is, do we do an in-person Project Connect event this year? Do we do one, or do we do two, or do we do three of those events? And do we have a core group of folks who's willing to do the work of organizing and putting that or one or more of those events on? The work essentially is about making arrangements to use the various buildings that we've had the Project Connect events in before, reaching out to all the service providers who have had tables and given things away in previous years to see if they're interested again, having them register, arranging, making sure we have parking set up, and then doing the advertising for the event. We've also, had different years. The group has done different things, between getting a newspaper article about it to putting banners up or putting flyers up or whatever it takes to get the word out to the people who might benefit from coming to the event, make sure that they know about it, and then soliciting donations to give away at the event as well. So it's not a ton of work, but there's just a lot of details involved in putting on a big services fair in this context. The Project Connect is always in conjunction with the point in time count. So it's the fourth week in January. So we would be looking at, oh my gosh, I don't have a 2023 calendar. Hold on. So we'd be looking at doing a Project Connect event in the week of January 23rd this year. The week of January 23rd. So probably a Project Connect event around the 24th, 25th, 26th timeframe. So what I'm interested in doing right now is seeing if there's anyone on from the Housing Coalition who would be willing to get together and talk about whether, for what to do and how to move forward, if there's enough energy and desire and it makes sense health-wise to do a Project Connect event. And then if so, what does that look like, and how to get that project organized. We had some great dedicated folks for many years who did it. I think a number of them are not doing their jobs anymore that they were doing when they were part of that committee. So who would be interested and willing and available to work on the Project Connect event this coming year? Shannon, fabulous. Any other people want to raise your hands? Leanne, great. Anyone else? We need a good core group of people. Roland, yes, thank you. Roland is one of our stalwart organizers for the South Kitsap one. That's great. Or anyone else willing?
Katie from Penn in the chat.
Katie, thank you. Sorry, I can't follow Katie K. Great. Anyone else in the chat? We probably need more than 4 people for sure to do this, to make it possible. Pull this off.
Yeah, don't be shy. Don't be shy. We don't bite.
Jasmine's not here, but I know she would be willing to jump on from HHC, or we'll have someone from KCR jump on.
Which Jasmine?
Castorena.
Jasmine C. Okay. Got 2. You've got a wealth of Jasmines.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else interested, willing?
Will somebody from the county be at the community as well?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Will somebody from the county be at this meeting as well?
Yes, I have always participated on the Project Connect committee. So I may delegate that, but we'll definitely have somebody from our division be part of it. And we do have a lot of information about how it's been done in past years. We have lists of the organizations that participated that we need to reach out to and get them to register and things like that. So we're not starting from scratch, although as you know, having not done it for a couple of years, it could feel a little bit like starting from scratch. Marwan, thank you. Are you volunteering yourself, or are you just saying somebody from G2 will help? Both. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you.
Kirsten, did you catch the chat that said someone from HEN was willing to help?
Yes, I got Katie. Katie from HEN. I got that. That's great. So that's a small but merry group. If anyone else is interested in participating, we probably will need a few more people to spread the load around. But if anyone else is interested, please email me as soon as possible, and we'll try to get a meeting together probably in a couple of weeks to do that initial planning around getting the event together. Rochelle, are you volunteering, or do you have a question?
I'm volunteering. I don't want to lead anything, but I'll help.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great. Yeah. So anybody else who's interested, please reach out to me and I will add you to the list. And I will also email the group of people who put it together last time and see if any of them are still around and are some interested. We had some folks who were community volunteers who did a ton of the work. So that would be great. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you. It's such a great event when we pull it off. I think people are hungry for having access to those resources again. So thanks very much and look forward to more conversation. And then I think I was supposed to do county state updates. Is that right? I apologize, I missed the first part of the meeting. So you may have already talked about the worker stipend. Was that discussed, Matt?
Just briefly mentioned, but I didn't go into it because I knew that was on your list. So take it away.
Yeah, so last week we got word that the worker stipend program that I've been talking about every month for a lot of months now is finally going to be launching on September 29th. So that will be the first day that people can submit applications. We did put the link to the information about that and where you can find the application in the MailChimp that went out. Thank you for putting that up on the website. There's also a direct website link, homelessworkerstipend.com, where you can find out if you qualify or people from your staff qualify for this stipend, and then how you can start getting ready to submit your application. I don't think that there is an issue where you have to be the first in line to submit your application on September 29th. I think it's okay if you don't get a chance to submit it for a little while after that. So I don't want people to feel like they're going to miss out. I think they allocated about $30 million for this program, and that's a lot of stipends. So don't be alarmed if you aren't able to submit it on September 29th. I really, really hope that all of you will disseminate this information throughout your organization. The county, we do not have any control over who's eligible. That's something that's determined at the state level. But the goal was to try to get this into the hands of people who've been doing the incredible frontline social services, homeless services work specifically. So you have to be working in homeless organization, providing homeless services. You have to work for an eligible entity, and you can, I think there's some additional Q&A things that are coming. I know KCR had some follow-up questions. You do have to meet an income threshold. This is not intended to be for sort of leadership, management, executive level folks. This is for our frontline caseworkers, case managers. And here on this website, you can see all of the different information that you need to get ready to apply or find out if you are eligible. So I think it would be great if as many people in Kitsap County who are eligible as possible can apply and get access to this stipend. It is a $2,000 stipend. And then you can apply for a second $2,000 in 6 months. It's intended to be a way to say thank you for sticking with it and continuing to do this really, really important work. I do not have answers to all of the questions. So, if you email me, I will probably just refer you to the website. I'm just here to convey information that this is where you find out whether you're eligible, who can apply, all of that stuff. So the county is just, in this case, a conduit of information because we really want to get as many folks access to this funding as possible. And as it says, the first day that you can submit your application is September 29th. Are there any questions about that off the bat? Not that I can answer them, but I'll be able to answer a few.
Yeah, Kirsten, I've already reached out to Live Stories.
I saw that.
I don't know they are actually administering this program for Department of Commerce, because I'm sure we're not alone, as we have a lot of staff that are kind of in homeless adjacent fields, such as our RAP team that's working on eviction prevention. Sometimes that does overlap, so we're trying to get some clarity on that. So if I get an answer, we can blast that out to the on our email lister. So I will. As of now, if you saw in the Q&A, it is pretty extensive, like even maintenance workers, receptionists, administrative assistants. So it's pretty broad if your organization is serving folks that are experiencing homelessness. So, Live Stories, when I talked about on the phone, they didn't have some of the finer points, so they were still working that out. So that's why I have trying to get that in writing. So we'll definitely share that when I get it.
Looks like you have a question.
Oh,
do you got a question, Janae?
Yeah, I was just curious if we know if there's a time frame in which they had to work in this sector. So if our company is one of the ones on the list, is there a time frame that the worker has to be a part of the community, or is it just if they're working in it now? Do we know?
Yes, I'm looking for it right now. I read this.
Yeah.
I believe it's just working at I believe you just have to be working at the time of the first stipend. Workers hired in between the first and second stipend are eligible for the second stipend.
So it would be people who are currently working. So it wouldn't be for people who had been working up until a month ago or something. I think there's some requirement for currently working in the field.
Thank you.
And I think Live Stories does have a way that you can ask questions too. So if you have questions, feel free to forward them to them, and they'll continue to add to their FAQ. This will definitely be a learning curve for everybody, and there is a lot of nuance, and it seems pretty straightforward, but it's kind of an amazing program because it's really the first time the state legislature has done anything like this, to offer a blanket stipend to a particular sector. Some of the other sectors are, like grumbling about why did we not get this stipend, and I think it came about from some really strong advocacy from the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance and some of our state legislators, specifically around recognizing that while, especially during the pandemic, while a lot of other frontline service workers were receiving some benefits and hazard pay and things like that, our homeless service providers have really been unsung heroes and did extraordinary work during this time with our very vulnerable populations. And so this was a way to acknowledge that. And the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance is also talking about it as kind of a first step in trying to address the challenges of a mostly underpaid workforce in this sector, and needing to find ways to increase the compensation for people doing this extremely important work.
And I believe everyone should look into this, but my understanding is that September 29th, that's when it opens up. So if you're just employed, there's not a timeline. You just start September 29th. Then you can apply for the first batch. Then they have to apply for that first batch by the 23rd. But if they get hired after that, they can apply for the second batch, and then that's June 2nd of 2023.
And again, Matt and Kirsten, if I can ask the question, it's a broad list. Basically, I don't want to discourage anyone from applying. I want to encourage people to apply. So there's the eligibility, and then the state decides, or the agency decides who's qualified or met the qualifications. Is that how that works? So Matt brought up a receptionist, for example, or a facilities worker that does this direct work with the community.
Yeah, so the agencies, we don't have any control over it, and we don't approve it. So
Okay.
All of our staff will apply directly with live stories. And so I think we're going to encourage as many people to apply as possible, because they do have maintenance and custodial staff, reception, admin support staff, peer advisors, case managers, street outreach, emergency shelter, and transition. So that's a pretty broad cross section of folks. And that's tentatively what Live Story said as well, is that basically they need to have a pay stub from an agency that's on the list. You can check to see if your agency is on the list, if that's here, the list of eligible organizations. And then, so there's a lot of Kitsap folks on here already. I believe if you're not on there, there is a process to try to file a grievance. But so if you're on that, you have a pay stub, you have an ID, and then you self-certify the rest, and then Live Stories does the qualification from there. So I'm curious about how that will work, but no, Tony, I
do think that there is a requirement that your agency receive state or federal homeless funding. So if you are a purely donation funded organization or program, I think you would not be eligible. And that was written into the legislation. So a lot of this is what the state legislature, the parameters that they put around the program, and what's allowed. So, that's not going to be every agency, not every organization, not every program is going to be eligible, because they did put some limitations on it. But it is a pretty broad sector of folks within those organizations. And as Matt said, I think there's a place where if you think your organization got left off but shouldn't have, I think you can make a request to have that organization added. I don't know what the process is for them doing that, but that's possible. All right, any other questions on that program? I'm sure there'll be more coming out about that, but yeah, feel free. You have the website now. Please disseminate that information within your organization. There are income limits too, so be aware of that, but you can try to get as many people that you know to apply who are eligible. That would be fantastic. Let's see what else is going on. What else is going on at the county? A lot of things are going on. We are very busy. Go. Sorry, did somebody have a question? No, okay. So I think at the last meeting, we talked about working on doing a lot of monitoring right now. So we are going to continue that work. Virginia is doing some awesome work going out and meeting organizations and doing monitoring on site. We're excited to get back to this. Our monitoring is really geared towards trying to provide technical assistance and make sure that organizations are doing what they need to be doing to be in compliance with our rules. So Virginia is doing a fantastic job getting out there and doing that monitoring. We are also working on a number of state reports that are due to the state legislature, to the Department of Commerce by the November, December timeframe of this year. There's a chance we'll be reaching out to you to get some additional information as we try to get those reports together that are required by the state to receive the funding that we receive. We really need to have you participate and respond if we ask for information because it is a requirement that we're under to provide that information to the state. So looking forward to that. If you have not registered yet for the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance Conference on Ending Homelessness, that is being held virtually next week. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic conference. I think it's Thursday, Friday of next week. Highly encourage you to participate and attend. It is virtual. It's a relatively low cost, super good opportunity to hear about all the great work that's being done around the state and what kind of new best practices and emerging data is showing. And there's usually some very inspiring guest speakers. So highly encourage everyone to attend. And I hope that next year we'll get back to doing it in person because that's always even better to be able to get together with your colleagues from across the state and participate in these information sharing. On the grants topic, we are, for those of you who have homeless housing and affordable housing grants that were made for 2022, 2023, we are working on putting together the renewal process for the second year of funding. So look for that coming out in the next, I don't know, Virginia, what are we thinking, like a couple of weeks?
Yeah, we're looking at middle of October so that the performance measures are ready.
Right, so you'll be getting performance metrics and then you'll be asked to fill out an application form for your second year of funding and really need to get that in on time. And we say this every year, if you don't turn your form in by the deadline, then we won't be able to guarantee that you get your contract processed in a timely way because it takes a lot of time to get all those contracts and amendments done. So please, please, please respond in a timely way and please respond with complete information. If you don't, it just creates a lot of extra work for everybody all around. Trying to think if there's anything else. There is so much going on, but I think I'll leave it there. Oh, Chuck asked about Mile Hill. Great question, Chuck. Thank you. So I can give you a quick update on the Mile Hill project. So this is the emergency shelter that the county is working on in South Kitsap off of Mile Hill Drive. The name of the project is now the Pacific Building Shelter or the Pacific Building Project. So if you hear us talking Pacific Building, that means Mile Hill Building. It's all the same, but Pacific Building Project is the project's name. We've submitted an application for using the land for this purpose. So we have to submit a conditional use permit to use the property to change the purpose of the use from an athletic center to a homeless shelter. So that permit has been submitted. We're in the process of working with our architect and engineer on the site development activity permit, which is kind of what are the improvements that we're making on the property outside of the building. And those are mostly adding ramps and walkways, sidewalks, and sort of exterior improvements to make it more ADA accessible for people. We're adding a play area for children in the back. And we're adding a outdoor pet area for people who have pets in the shelter. We're also starting to do work with the architect and engineering firm on the interior building improvements so we can get that building permit put together. And the focus that we're working on right now is really around the co-sheltering aspect of this shelter. It will be a shelter where people are able to bring their pets. And that is being very done successfully right now by the Salvation Army. So we had some staff down looking at the way that they're doing that. But we have the opportunity here to incorporate some design elements to make that work with a little bit more intentionality in this shelter building. So there's a lot of work being done right now on just making sure that our design works well for sheltering animals as well as people. So we're also planning an opportunity for community information, and so stay tuned for that coming out. I don't have any details or a date yet, but we are planning another community information session on that project around the end of October. So stay tuned for more information. We'll be advertising that widely. Question from Leanne about COVID funding for this year. Looks like Leah is responding directly on that contract question, I think. I think I'm going to leave it there for now. Are there any other questions or specific topics you'd like me to talk about? I guess one other comment I would make is that many of you probably heard about the fire that took place in the Midway Inn in Bremerton over the weekend. And unfortunately, that hotel was, well, the unfortunate part is that everybody who's living at the hotel was displaced, about 50 people. Most of the people who were staying there are extremely low income and vulnerable. Some of them are already clients of our social service organization. Some of them were people who just couldn't find another place to live on their income. The Red Cross has set up a temporary shelter to help folks in the meantime while we're working with them to secure alternative accommodation for a period of time until the Midway Inn reopens. KCR is very involved in that. The Bremerton Housing Authority is very involved in that effort. Red Cross is really involved. We're trying to make sure people can get connected with resources so that they have a place to go after the Red Cross temporary shelter closes. So that's another big chunk of work that that we've been working on over the last week or so. Shannon?
Yeah, hi. Do you know how long the Red Cross shelter will be up?
I don't know that information for sure, but they do tend to be very temporary, like a week or less is kind of their goal. This is a pretty unusual situation in that most hotel fires, you know, the people staying in the hotel are not living there as their residents and have the means to move somewhere else or get another accommodation. In this case, it was really functioning like low-income housing for a lot of folks. And so it's a bit of a different situation where the people who are displaced don't have financial resources or means to afford something else or to go somewhere else. So it's a little bit unusual in that respect. I don't have a firm date from the Red Cross yet on when they're planning to close. Other questions, comments from anyone else on that, Matt or Tony or PHA folks?
Yeah, just appreciate all the support. I know there's a lot of folks that are helping out right now. Yeah, so thank you to all the different agencies that are helping us kind of move these displaced folks or clients into new housing situations.
Yeah, Kirsten, you're the quarterback. We take orders.
Yeah, well, I feel like my experience running the county's quarantine isolation center has served me well in coordinating this emergency response effort in a much less official capacity. So thank you all for everybody who's doing a little extra to help care for these extremely vulnerable families that have been displaced. I think I'll turn it over back to you, Matt. And as always, if you have questions, you can feel free to reach out to me or the awesome Housing and Homelessness Division team, Leah, Virginia, Corey, Jared, and Judy Ray.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Yeah, thank you.
There's so much going on there. And Kirsten,
so it's too much to talk about it all.
It's a lot. I do want to give Kirsten a shout out. Many of you probably don't know, but she worked on the advisory committee to actually get that stipend program, through into the finish line and to actually help that get up and running. So I think a lot of staff, we owe some thanks to Kirsten for that. So I just definitely wanted to say thank you, Kirsten. I know our team really, really appreciates that. All right, agency updates. Please hit up the chat if you have an agency update, and I will give you a call. Annika, you're ready to rock and roll. So do you have an update for us from Kayak?
Hey, I'm here with my coworker Nancy. For anyone who's working with immigrant clients, there is a new fund that Washington State started on Monday. It's called the Washington Immigrant Relief Fund, and it's essentially stimulus checks for immigrants that live in Washington but did not qualify for the original federal stimulus checks due to their immigration status. And a person who qualifies will get $1,000 or more potentially in January, and they have to apply by November 14th. The application is online, and for folks who are not comfortable doing it themselves online, we're helping with it. Nancy's here Monday through Friday and speaks Spanish and Mum, and then we're also here late on Wednesday nights, and we'll be doing other pop-up events. So if you have immigrant clients that are asking you about it, send them our way. I'll put Nancy's phone number in the chat, and happy to send flyers to anyone who wants those as well.
Annika, can you put the link to the website in the chat so Marwan can get it and then put it on the recording? That would be awesome. And the flyer too, that would be great. If you have a link to the flyer. Thank you. That's awesome. Joanne, Kitsap Legal Services.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Joanne Sprague. I'm the Executive Director at Kitsap Legal Services. I just wanted to remind everybody we're still providing full legal representation to people that have received eviction notices and who have also been summoned into court on an eviction matter. Sometimes those cases are not called unlawful detainer, which is the eviction statute. They might be called ejectments or quiet title actions. And we will review those. And if they really fall into what should be an eviction, we will also provide representation on those. So please refer people over to us and we will set them up with an attorney. A couple other things, for some funding that we have for housing, we're required to create a tenant advisory board. So if anybody on this call is a tenant and would be interested, or if you work with a tenant that you think would be interested, let me know. We're trying to find a diverse group from across the county, and there is some reimbursement available for the time that is spent working on that advisory committee. And then the other thing is, because there's a legislative session coming up, everybody's wanting information. And so the legal aid community is looking for bad landlord stories. So we want to hear what landlords are doing out there to kind of circumvent the eviction process. So are they threatening? Are they, locking people out? Are they turning off utilities? Are they harassing people? So if you have any stories about that, please reach out to me and let me know. And we will, across the state, we'll kind of gather our stories so we can inform the legislature what is happening out there in the world. Thank you. And I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Joanne, is that a tenant advisory committee or board, is that for Kitsap or is that statewide?
No, it's just for Kitsap County. It's just to kind of like boots on the ground, people who are living the experience to tell us their experience as a tenant, just to kind of help us and better represent people and to better advocate for them at a larger level, at a higher level.
And they should reach out to you directly for that?
Yes. And I'll put my email in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Joanne. And
Yep.
Thank you for all the good, so many of our clients have benefited from your representation. So thank you.
Well, in KCR also, so.
Absolutely. Awesome. So next we have Shannon Turner from PCHS with an update.
Yeah, thank you, man. We just want to make an announcement about our open enrollment event that's taking place on November 9th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Sheridan Park Community Center. And so if any other CMOs would love to join us down there, please reach out and let us know. And I'll put this in the chat as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, Shannon. Next is Tony from Kitsap Community Resources.
Hey, just real quick, appreciate the support with the community needs assessment. This closes on the 30th, but we're moving into the focus group stage. So we're already starting to establish focus groups that we're going to interview and speak with. So if anybody has any ideas, you can just reach out to me. And we're probably going to do 10 or 15, and we'd like to do them across Kitsap County, but definitely with the most vulnerable population. So let us know. Okay. I'll put my my info in the chat.
Fantastic. All right. Looking through. Oh, Jason.
I can elaborate that on a little bit more too.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so there is a stand down event for veterans. That's this Saturday, the 23rd. It's going to also be at the Sheridan. So this is for veterans. There's a lot of different community resources. It goes from 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock there. So, I mean, I think there might be free haircuts. There's just a lot of veterans organizations that are going to be there. So if you know a veteran, or if you are a veteran that's interested in learning about some resources, definitely go out there, take a look. They are requesting that veterans that are going to be having services, I mean, bring your DD-214, or if you're a family of a veteran, make sure that you've got something proving your relationship to them. But yeah, and I can look for a stand down for the flyer too. I know I'll be there with Rick Becker, our county veterans representative. So yeah, and then Joe, I don't know if you had a question about that or something else.
Mine is something else. Thanks.
Gotcha. So anyway, should be a good event though.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Yeah, please share any info in the chat. That would be awesome if you can. Joe, go ahead.
Hi, Joe Walter from G2 Bremerton Housing Division, formerly the Bremerton Housing Equity Advocates. We've just joined forces together. If you haven't already received one, this is a reminder about, you will be receiving an invite soon. This is a reminder about a big meeting coming up October 26th, where it's solution focused, and it's very focused on the single issue of addressing some of the health and safety issues on the MLK block. The hope is that by focusing directly with lots of talented people who are invested in addressing this problem, we can figure out what to do about the toilet and trash problem on that block. So it's October the 26th from 10 until 2. There will be food, there'll be drinks. You can attend live, or you can attend via Zoom. And look for that invitation. We'll ask for an RSVP about that meeting so we can make sure we have plenty of food for you. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Joe, is there a flyer you're able to share? Or is there any info?
Marwan is tied up. I just texted with him. It was just put together, I think, yesterday. So okay. He says it's in the chat. It's in the chat, he says. Yes, there it is. Look for the conduit and what would MLK do? It is in the chat.
Awesome. Sounds good. Perfect.
I think he direct messaged me. I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Okay,
All
great.
right.
Awesome. Any other agency updates? Awesome. I see that now. Oh, Katie, do you have an update?
Hey, everybody. Katie Sharp from the Beaverton Housing Authority. I just want to say that we still have a lot of voucher holders with different programs, the HCD program, as well as our emergency housing vouchers, and our Counselor Youth Independence Program vouchers. There's a lot of vouchers out there for people trying to find affordable units. So if you do know any landlords that haven't listed and are interested in renting to a voucher holder, please, I'll put the contact information in the chat, as well as if you are working with somebody who has a voucher and you have questions about kind of how you can help or how BHA can help, please contact us. We can definitely point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Great. We're not seeing any other in the chat. I don't see any other hands, so I think that will do it. Yeah, so thank you. I think there was so much information. We're still before 4, but this was jam-packed, so please feel free to follow up with any of our presenters if there's questions that come later, or any questions about the executive committee updates regarding nominations, for the chairs for next year for leadership, and also for the end of year awards, and the Project Connect committee. But we appreciate all of you and have a wonderful, wonderful day, and talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Man, what a great meeting. Chock full of a lot of good stuff there. Hopefully you were able to find all that good stuff helpful. We try to put all that information in the chat there. Remember, that is always the third Wednesday of the month, the KHHC meeting, the Kitsap Housing and Homeless Coalition meeting. So many different agencies here trying to do the work, and they're doing a lot of great work, and you can see how fast they address the issues that exist. I will say it's a lot to try to keep up with all the information, especially when it's time for updates, because everyone's shooting their updates and I don't already have their information. So it's like, all right, paste this, copy that, get it done. So anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in today. There will not be a follow-up program today for housing, as we are getting ready for a city council meeting tonight. And as you heard, zoning is going to be part of the conversation. So hopefully you will tune in tonight at 5:30. I think I put that in the chat. Let me see. There's a ton of stuff in the chat. Let me see if I can find it really quick. All right, here we go. This is the link for the council meeting. So if you just kind of scroll up there, you can also email your comments to city.council@ci.bremerton.wa.us. And again, hopefully you will join us and provide an open comment tonight, as it is so critical and important to have your voice heard. Anyhow, again, appreciate you guys tuning in today, and we will see you next week. Oh, yes, pancake breakfast. I shouldn't mention that, right? As Joe was mentioning, G2 has a new acquisition, which is the BHEA. It's come under G2. So now they are G2 Housing, or I should say we are, right? Because we're together. And as such, they are helping us to plan our big breakfast, not only next Wednesday, which is going to be a planning meeting for the big October breakfast, and this is going to be a really huge one, but we're definitely glad and appreciative that they have come and joined us. So that's awesome. Hey, Rev, you know what? If you're not too far away, you can come back now. I'm about to end this. So the Rev knocked on the door like 2 seconds ago. So anyhow, yes, the pancake breakfast is next Wednesday at 11 a.m. 4040 Wheaton Way, Suite 203. And remember, there is a computer lab there. So if you have folks that need to use the computer or print, that is there for you. And this Wednesday, we're going to have our normal breakfast. And then we're going to create a bunch of meals. And then I'm going to go downtown at about 2 p.m. and have breakfast with the Lived Experience Coalition. And the Unhoused down on ML King have organized themselves under that banner. And so I'm going to go and have lunch with them. And so just yeah, man, just a lot of good stuff happening in the community. It's getting cold, folks. I was telling someone yesterday how cold it was when I woke up, and couldn't sleep last night. Woke up today at about 4 a.m. and it was, I believe it was 14 degrees above freezing. So it was like 48 degrees, 48 or 46. It was remarkably cool. I'll say cold because I was didn't feel that's not comfortable, right? And we have so many of our community members that are sleeping outside, and we have to find a way to help them and serve that population. You can see, the Kitsap Housing and Homeless Coalition is a lot of agencies all trying to get this thing done. But man, it would sure be nice to not have any unhoused here in Kitsap County. And I know that that is the goal. It is a hard and lofty goal, and there are checkpoints along the way, things like bathrooms and um, just a lot of other services that are needed as, all these agencies are trying to secure housing for the unhoused. So time is of the essence. It is, urgent, urgent, urgent that these problems are resolved. And so please join us this next Wednesday as we plan that next big meeting in October. And so the October meeting is solution oriented. So it's not a meeting of pointing fingers at each other and yelling and screaming or anything like that. It literally is, what can we do? How can we do a little bit more? As you see, there are a lot of great agencies out there, but as such, we all do our things, right? And sometimes we work together, right? As Kirsten was saying, the Midway fire, we got a call from, her Sunday morning, like, hey, transportation is needed. So G2 is providing transportation for those that were affected by the fire at the Midway. And so, you have this overlap and you get tapped in and tapped out depending on what's going on. But there are some other things that we can do, and so we just all need to be in the same room to have that conversation, especially those that are unhoused, those that we are having these conversations about. So we're going to try to do something different here in October. We hope that you will join us. G2 is going to take care of you. We're going to feed you really good. And hopefully we can get to work and really find some solutions that are going to really benefit folks. And at the same time, build relationship and continue to build community. And so it takes all of us together, as Mark says, we the people. I like quoting Mark from time to time. He's not listening, so I'll deny it if you tell him. Anyhow, I'm so glad that you're able to join us. I am Marwan Cameron for the Kitsap Housing and Homeless Coalition. This is the Conduit Network. We will see you tonight at 5:30.